I remember I had a friend that told me he smoked pot once at school and I didn't want anything to do with him. When I got arrested, I found out that my drug lab was actually one of the 3 biggest in the world. I grew up in the country. It was a small farm. My first encounter with the law was for racketeering. That involved stealing luxury cars. I was sentenced to around 2 years imprisonment. It was a scary feeling when I entered the prison for the first time. My first cellmate was a man by the name of Igor, who was a chemical engineer. He'd been arrested for manufacturing ecstasy. I decided that I was going to ask him if he could teach me how to make ecstasy. It started out small. I purchased the chemicals for a bit under $2,000. With that $2,000, I made $250,000 or something like that, the first attempt. There's always a risk of other criminal organisations finding out what you're doing and deciding they want a piece of it, and unfortunately in this line of work, life means nothing to a lot of people. I always just liked that adrenaline each day of getting up and knowing that my life could end today. The orders started pouring in for more ecstasy and I just couldn't make it quick enough. So by 2006, I was at a point that I'd gone from making drugs in small 20-litre vessels that I could lift by hand to a vessel that we needed a forklift to load the chemicals inside. I just remember standing there in that drug lab on my own thinking, you know, how has it come to this? One part of my brain was just telling me to get out of here, just run. And then there's the other part of my brain that's telling me to stay. You're going to make a lot of money. This will set you up for life. It was always the greedy part of my brain that won. I decided to stay and do that one last reaction. Here I was, stuck in a factory with smoke billowing out of a vent in the roof, and a next door neighbour had called the fire brigade and they'd blocked the entrance. I knew I was going to get life in prison if I didn't get out of there. Fire brigade didn't know exactly where the smoke was coming from because it had stopped, so I decided that I was just going to go for it. I opened up the door and I just remember everything was in slow motion. And there was a fireman standing there. I remember saying to him, "Oh, are you looking for the smoke? It's coming from a factory around the back." And they basically just jumped in the fire trucks and disappeared, which allowed me to escape, basically. It took a year for them to eventually catch up with me. And by that time, I had pretty much already told myself that my life was over. I was sentenced to 16 years in prison. I was 41 at the time. When you're sitting in a prison cell for that long, you have a lot of time to reflect over your life. And you ask yourself constantly, was it really worth it? How do you put a price on 16 years of your life in prison? I don't think that anyone could put a price on that. To me, it wasn't worth it.